figured I'd make a video this time only to, I guess, mesh up the whole media usage thing. I've reached a point in the book where basically Abraham Lincoln has, I guess, accepted the fact and I guess the task of hunting down these vampires that I guess have been roaming around history. Um, he spends a lot of time, I guess, relating to his father, and well, it starts with his father actually. Um, they go into the explanation of the actual death of his mother, which, according to history, would be from bad milk or milk poisoning, something of the sort, which had caused death, a very painful death at that. Um, and they explained it that at the time, uh, Thomas Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's father, had taken a loan from a businessman that he had been in business with for over the years and was unable to pay back the loans. And basically, because of such a thing, that he was in debt and couldn't, and in response, the bad milk, per se, was actually vampire blood that had killed his mother. Um, Thomas Lincoln then proceeds to get drunk and starts spewing out all these things one night to Abraham about his father, also named Abraham Lincoln, um, and how he was killed. Whereas the original story was that he was scalped by Indians, but Thomas Lincoln, being young, covered the story because he felt that perhaps it was a bit outlandish to tell people that he was killed by a vampire. It would just be easier to say that he was scalped by Indians. Um, I mean, on this level, I could see that there's a little bit that you could tell that there's a an edgy difference with not difference, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, I guess at they're at ends with each other. I could say Thomas and Abraham. Uh, Abraham, of course, is upset with his father because of what has happened throughout his whole life, and I guess Thomas doesn't realize this at all, and it kind of reminds me of the relationship that I had with my father a bit. Um, Basically, it's explained that Thomas was not any type of an achiever at all. He basically lived his life to live his life, never looking to make more money, never making to look any more money for the family or better the family's condition. Um, and basically, like with same thing with my dad. My dad, being foreign at that though, um, my dad was never an overachiever. Never looked to better anything for my family. Basically settled on a shitty job that I I mean when I was young thought was great, which in turn Abraham thought that carpentry and other sort like the wood cutting and stuff like that would was also something to look forward to, and he looked up to at the time. But same thing with my father. I thought the car industry was very interesting. I'm still very enthused into cars, which I mean Abraham Lincoln in turn also becomes very into the wood cutting and working out. We're not talking about the Abraham Lincoln has Planet Fitness or any other type of gym that he can go to, but he takes up the wood cutting as a part of his training, axe throwing, so on and so forth, carpentry, skills that he picked up from his father. I didn't pick up any skills from my father. He basically, so basically, I could relate in a sense. I understand what it is to be at an ends with your dad. I mean, and without him knowing, I mean, there's been times that I get into these things with my dad, especially since he doesn't live with me or ever. Well, not ever, but to be angry with someone because of their status and because of their, I guess, their willingness to not try to do anything with themselves when they can. I guess it's a very, again, it's a shitty situation, but whatever. I did better, and apparently so did Abraham Lincoln, became 16th president. Um, but the book goes on, and we're introduced in one of his adventures. Now, at this point, he's gone on and he's claiming, well, he's lying, which I guess it's pointed. Well, not I guess, but it is pointed out in the book that it kind of breaks that whole mystere of Honest Abe and how he had lied to go and he had lied to go kill vampires, claiming that he was going to pick up jobs and promised money. And actually, on his first adventure, he comes across a vampire that's about to kill him after being discovered, and actually is saved by another vampire who turns out to be Henry. Henry is the vampire that actually gives the author um, the manuscript or journal of Abraham Lincoln in the beginning of the book and the introduction. So basically, this guy Henry obviously is a fictional character at this point. Um, Sorry about that. As you can see, the lovely collection of crap in my room: Disney, medieval times, dragon, something else. Um, Basically, what was I saying? Oh yeah, fictional character. He apparently has been around for quite a while. Um, his story dates back 200 years to his turning of a vampire, and then he explains what happens, what they go through. Fictional stuff. Not interesting. Well, interesting, but nonetheless not really part of history. Um, Unless we were to talk about you know mythology, if that was the case, but I don't think that would really be serving the purpose here. Um, but they spent a lot of time on the relationships that Abraham Lincoln had between his father and other peoples. Um, he also we also get I've stopped reading at the point where he actually loses his sister during her uh, during giving birth to her child, and pretty much that's where I am at this point. I wouldn't say this is halfway through the book. I'm maybe 50 pages off from that point. I do plan to go through the rest of it though. Um, Noticeably though, when I was reading the Wikipedia article, it seems that a lot of the Wikipedia stuff that is up actually is contained in the book but isn't cited, um, which again is a red flag. Other than the fact that um, in the previous post that I had written that you know using things like Wikipedia and uncited sources is a big red flag for us in the history department. Um, but you could actually tell that there are things that are from Wikipedia almost word for word. I don't know if it could be considered plagiarism. I mean, he does give the acknowledgments and kudos to Wikipedia and all that other good stuff. Um, Although he isn't writing history. He is writing fiction at this point. It seems that there's a toss back and forth between the history and the fiction, as I have been stating. There is a lot of it. It's very hard at this point for me even to tell whether or not these events, well, like I said, the events that he has been doing are true. With the obvious fiction of vampires aside, um, I can't tell. There were a few pictures that I wanted to look up that I'm probably going to take a look at and see. There's a picture of Abraham Lincoln standing over bodies, but there's also a kudos to a photoshopper. I want to see if I can dig up the original picture. Apparently there's a painting, and that one is actually it's actually cited. That's a footnote, so I have to find out where exactly he picked up the source for that picture. But I'm going to continue on this, and any thoughts, you could leave a comment.